What you're about to hear is a local account preserved by 2 eyewitnesses and a handful of records. The details vary by telling, and some pieces of the story remain missing, so listen with an open mind. In the summer of 1967, 2 siblings, Mark and Dina Pines, arrived at the Gretuncle Harold cabin to spend the season in a small Oregon logging town then called Gravity Falls. It was a town of under 900 souls, with a single sheriff's office, a 1-room school, and a quiet lumber mill nestled deep in the evergreen forests of the Pacific Northwest. 3 weeks after they arrived, Gravity Falls vanished. One afternoon, while exploring the old cabin, Mark found a loose floorboard. Beneath it, wrapped in animal hide, lay a small, chained leather volume. According to the siblings' testimony, the book smelled of damp earth and old pine. When their great-uncle Harold saw it, they said his hands trembled and he whispered, "They were never meant to be let out." Harold quickly took the book and locked it away, but it was too late. The siblings reported that strange dreams and half-heard whispers started soon after. The book itself contained odd sketches and symbols. Mark's account describes illustrations that did not match any known local flora or fauna. The very presence of the book seemed to disturb Harold deeply, and he refused to speak of it again. Within days, residents throughout Gravity Falls began to report strange phenomena. Local accounts tell of footprints that stopped suddenly in the moss, with no trail leading away. People heard voices calling their names from deep within the trees, but when they looked, no one was there. Shadows seemed to move without bodies to cast them. Pets went missing without a trace. A farmer's radio, miles from any station, picked up odd low-frequency hums at night. A quiet unease began to settle over the town. The reports multiplied. A schoolteacher swore she heard the school's bell ring, even though the bell itself had been removed for repairs weeks earlier. A sheriff's deputy recorded a static-laced tape of what he called voices calling names from the forest edge. When the tape was later analyzed, audio experts found only noise, with occasional, unidentifiable syllables buried in the static. A shared anxiety spread through the community. People felt like they were being watched. Back at the cabin, Harold barred the doors and windows, refusing to discuss the book Hidehidanawe. On the last night of summer, a violent storm tore through the region. Lightning cracked across the sky, and torrential rain washed out the roads, cutting the town off completely. Phone lines went dead. When the storm finally passed and the sun rose, the first outside rescue teams tried to reach Gravity Falls. But there was nothing there. Where a town of nearly 900 people had stood just the day before, there was only untouched ancient forest, no buildings, no vehicles, no back. It was as if the town had been folded back into the trees, erased from the landscape. 2 days later, Mark and Dina were found wandering along a highway 40 miles away. They were disoriented and dehydrated, with no clear memory of the town, the book, or their uncle. Their clothing was intact, and they couldn't explain how they had traveled so far. Their fragmented statements became the heart of the official record, the only living testimony to a town that was no more. Search teams returned to the town's coordinates again and again, but found only forest. Official records show that within a year, the name Gravity Falls vanished from government maps, removed and unlisted, as if it had never been incorporated at all. Survey logs from the period have unexplained gaps. Archival requests for town records came back with notations that the files were damaged or lost, and the chained leather book, the catalyst for it all, was never cataloged in any local collection. So what happened to Gravity Falls? Explanations range wildly. Some suggest a deliberate kavarpa, terrible industrial accident, perhaps that was buried and erased from history. Others propose a case of mass hysteria, a shared psychogenic episode triggered by the isolation and anxieties of living in such a remote place. Paranormal enthusiasts point to the mysterious book as the source of a supernatural event. Skeptics, meanwhile, argue that it is all a product of poor record-keeping and natural disasters that masked the slow collapse of a failing town. The truth remains contested. Lost to time and legend, Gravity Falls exists now mostly as a whispered story told around campfires. For Mark and Dina, the memory is a collection of fragments they can't piece together. For historians, the records are too thin to form a clear picture. For some, it's a story of the supernatural intruding on our world. For others, it's a cautionary tale about how easily history can be lost, and how little we can sometimes trust our own archives. Wherever you stand, the question remains, what happens if you open something that was meant to stay closed forever? Which explanation do you accept? A real supernatural event, a case of mass psychosis, or a staged government? Vote in the poll and tell us your theory in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more documented legends and unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching.